Welcome to The Family Business, a podcast about football and life from the perspective of a coach and his daughter. I'm Stephanie Turner, and I'm here with my dad, Norv Turner. And we have a guest joining us in a few minutes, but we're just going to catch up a little bit here. What'd you do this weekend, Dad?
I had a great weekend, to be honest with you. The weather in San Diego was incredible. 75,
it's warm.
75 degrees, no wind. So on Thursday, I went up to the Farmers Open, the golf tournament at Torrey Pines Golf Course, and I live 5 miles from the golf course. And you drive up, you go Torrey Pines Beach, beautiful park. We parked pretty close, and I actually walked 9 holes with Will Zalatoris. It was fun to watch him play. He had some back issues a year ago, and he looked very, very healthy. And I think on Thursday he was 4 under, so he's playing at a high level again. And it's just a different world watching those guys play.
Mm-hmm. I don't know anything about golf, but sounds like fun.
It was fun, but not as fun as your trip. Where'd you go?
Yeah, we were we took the kids skiing. We went up to Mammoth. We drove up there. The weather was also beautiful. It was it was warm up there. It was like 45, 50 degrees. I'm not a skier. I've done it, and people always ask me like, oh, do you ski? And I'm like, no, I retired from skiing because I don't love it. Like I know people are obsessed, love it. I have friends that want to go, during ski season, during the winter, every weekend somewhere new. But I don't like, you go up, you go down, and then what? Whenever I do it, I'm just like, okay, now what?
Now what?
So, but my husband snowboards. My kids have gotten into skiing. They took lessons.
Sydney was flying down the slope when you
my
see
6-year-old.
the video.
We can cue the video here of just.
My gosh, I'm going. There's trees there. Would you just be careful? And then there's a telephone pole. But he steered and he managed and all that. But my skiing, I grew up in a little town called Martinez, which has 3 oil refineries right near the Straits. And our high school coach, one of his motivational talks was, you're playing these guys from a wealthy area, and tomorrow morning at 8, you guys are going to be cleaning the bleachers, and they'll be skiing in Lake Tahoe. So, just think about that when we're out there playing them. So that was his motivational talk. So yeah. I never really skied, but that looked like fun with Sydney.
Yeah. Yeah, they had fun. Again, I don't get it, but, but they all had fun, and we were with a bunch of friends. So that was good. So we're the week before the Super Bowl now. And, or when this is released, will be a few days before the game. I have this, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see we have this is a Super Bowl helmet that was signed by Troy Aikman, although it hasn't, I guess I didn't preserve it well enough in my childhood memory box because it's a little bit faded there. But that was from the Super Bowl in Atlanta, actually. And my daughter played a soccer game at the Rose Bowl last night over the weekend. And I said, I watched Papa play a Super Bowl. I watched Papa coach a Super Bowl in this stadium because the first Super Bowl we went to with the Cowboys was in Pasadena at the Rose Bowl. But we have obviously some fun Super Bowl memories. And people always ask me, oh, are you going to the Super Bowl every year? Are you going to the Super Bowl? And I'm like, no, I don't go to the Super Bowl unless I know someone. I want to go. Like we went to your Super Bowls, obviously. We went to my Uncle Ronnie, his team. He coached with Chicago when they went to the Super Bowl. That was the Prince, my favorite Prince halftime show. He sang Purple Rain in the rain.
It was in the rain.
But that was in Miami. But yeah, we don't go unless we have a reason, I guess, like a family member or friend or something.
Well, we were fortunate enough in the Super Bowl and the Rose Bowl that we were ahead. We scored back-to-back touchdowns right at the end of the first half. And the halftime is really long for the players. It's normally 10 minutes. It's like 25 minutes. And Michael Jackson was
and
the entertainer. So we're so far ahead. We did our little halftime get together, plays we wanted to get run, what they were doing on defense. And then we got out of there. The guys that were in the press box got out of there and got up to the press box as fast as we could. And we got to see half of Michael Jackson's show. And a lot of people consider that one of the best, along with Prince in the Rain. But it was something. My history with the Rose Bowl, I coached and we won 4 Rose Bowls there when I was coaching at USC. So it is definitely one of my favorite stadiums.
Yeah. Our guest today is also someone from a football family, Jordan Palmer, a former NFL quarterback who's become one of the most respected quarterback developers in the game today. Welcome to the family business.
Thank you so much. I just meeting you, Stephanie, but I go back with your dad a long ways. If I said when, it'd make him feel older than he already feels. So, but yeah,
I know I've heard about you for many years, and obviously know your brother, who happened to be next door neighbors with my parents years ago. And then I think you actually met my husband recently at Laird Hamilton, like at some event or something at their house. I don't know.
Oh my gosh, I didn't make that connection. I didn't know.
Yeah. So that was kind of funny. He's like, "Oh, I ran into Jordan Palmer," and I was like, "Oh yeah, we know him."
Well, I got to start by mentioning number one, Carson, and his transition to being a head coach and the success, winning the whole thing. It's pretty amazing, and it doesn't surprise me because when you played quarterback that long, you end up understanding most of the positions and what has to happen and how you go about doing it.
Yeah. The fact that he took the job is one of the biggest shocks of my life, it just in terms of just literally never saw that coming.
Yeah.
He had no intentions or aspirations of doing it. He really just stepped in to kind of serve. Came from a servant's perspective, certainly not from a financial perspective, because I think he's not even taking a salary, but, and not because he was bored, because he was finally getting to a point where he could just do the retired football thing. Cause he's been raising 4 kids, and when they're little, I mean, it's a full-time job. So, it's, the way I've been describing Carson stepping into coaching at his alma mater is he is the most selfless person that I've ever met, which is a strong statement. And this is the most selfless move I've seen him make. And the part that's not surprising is that they had the number 1 ranked most difficult schedule in the entire country preseason. I think they played 7 or 8 top 25 national teams. And he won Division I state championship and National Coach of the Year in his first year. That's the part that's not surprising. But the fact that he's doing it is just like it. I still can't believe he is. It's crazy.
I think it's outstanding. We have a guy I coach for 6 years. Philip Rivers is coaching his son down in Alabama. So these guys that really study the game and know how to communicate, which Carson is in that, obviously proved that this year. It's impressive what they're doing for the young kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And North, I mean, boy, has a lot changed since you've been around high school football. And, I'm 41 and it's like a different sport in terms of, NIL and money, but the way the recruiting works and the hype these kids have, social media changed everything. So it's just such a different thing than it was. And what it's done is, you guys being in the family business of the NFL for so long, the Turners, and Stephanie and your brother Scott, you know that the NFL it's awesome. There's high highs, low lows. It's a lot of things, but what it's not is like pure, right? Like there's just very few people, whether they're coaching, whether they're playing, whether they're taping ankles, stuffing bags and taping helmets, like whatever their role is in football, scouting, making decisions, managing salary caps. They're not doing it 100% for the love of the game. It's impossible. Everybody works too hard. You sacrifice too much family time. You travel, you move around, you change locate. So a lot of the purity of football is, in my opinion, is pretty much extracted by the time you go pro. And then college started becoming very businessy and very transactional. And so a lot of the purity is gone. Well, that dripped all the way down into high school, where you have kids transferring, moving states to play somewhere and sitting out unless they get a better package, and not transferring to that school unless it's agreed upon the offense they're going to run or how they're going to be used. And so what's happened is high school football has lost a lot of its purity as well. And Norv, you know my brother very well. Nobody cares less about hype and social media and potential and what you're I mean, literally nobody cares less. Yeah. And so he's in the league, the Trinity League, which is Santa Margarita, Mater Dei, St. John Bosco, Orange Lutheran, J. Sarah. You know, it's the toughest league in the country. And so it's essentially the least pure league in the country. St. John Bosco and Mater Dei are just, it's like a JUCO. I mean, there's just coming and going, players coming and going. Mm-hmm. And so Carson is bringing a level of purity because he doesn't care about that stuff and actually like runs from it. He's bringing a level of purity to a sport, high school football, that's lost a lot of it, and the Trinity League, which has very little of it left. And he's just going to win off of work ethic, toughness, discipline, camaraderie, be at your best when your teammates need it. All these simple things that we grew up hearing about. It's a game of inches and all these cliches that we heard growing up. In 2026, he's kind of like bringing that to a high school football program, and these are the results. And they had some really good players, and he has a great coaching staff. But none of the rest of the program for the success they had is because of the program, right? I mean, he took over a program that wasn't doing great. So I think it's a level of purity that he's brought. And these kids won't realize until they go on and play in college and some in the NFL how good they had it for those couple of years when Carson Palmer was the head coach.
Yeah, it's
cool.
The one thing that is still there, and it'll lead into what you're doing, but my one of the biggest things I got out of coaching and the number of years I did, and one of the things we've done on this podcast is had a bunch of the guys that I was able to coach that struggled to get to where they were before they had success. And whether it be a Trent Green, we've been through a lot of guys. And the satisfaction you get from coaching is watching these guys develop and helping them become better players. And the most coachable guys who find a way to use their ability, they're the guys that you feel good about and have enjoyed the process. And it's really what you're doing with the quarterbacks, and you've been doing, I don't know how many years now, but I know it was 6 or 7 years ago. I was down and you had Joe Burrow, you had Josh Allen, you had Kyle Allen, you had Sam Darnold. I'm looking, and this guy's got the who's who of young quarterbacks, and I'm sure it's great satisfaction for you to watch how they've developed, and they're true pros, and you're a big part of it.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, I just have like the most incredible journey and so much of it. And I definitely work really hard and care a lot. But a lot of the things that have happened in my life and my coaching career and what I'm able to do today and where I'm taking this thing is because of things that I didn't necessarily do or put myself in that position. I grew up, Bob Johnson, Rob's dad, he was training quarterbacks. And as far as I could trace it back, and I tried to do this, I think he was like the first guy to charge money for a quarterback lesson. And I've done this with Andy Bark, who's the creator of Elite 11. And we've tried to like really go back to like, this was pre-internet. So, who was like, I'll train you for money. Hitting lessons have been around for a long time in baseball and golf, but not in quarterback. And so for me to grow up, and he was kind of out of the game. He was watching his boys play. And Andy Bark, who created the Elite 11, said, hey, there's this 8th grade kid, Carson Palmer. This kid's special. You got to look at this kid. And so Bob started training my brother. Well, I'm 5 years younger. So that means I was sitting on my football watching. Mm-hmm. And then Bob got back into coaching my sophomore year in high school. I transferred from Santa Margarita, where my brother is right now, to Mission Viejo. He took over a crappy program. And by the time I was a senior, we won state, and we were probably the best team in the country. They didn't rank them back then. And a lot of guys have come through there. And that whole time I was in high school, he was doing draft prep for athletes' first quarterbacks. So my schedule, was that he ran the school. So all my teachers were coaches and I could get out of sixth period, no problem. But I would get out every single day at lunch in January, February, March, and I would run down to the field and I would catch balls for draft prep. So I like to think that I've been around draft prep since I was 15.
Yeah.
Catching balls for Joey Harrington and Drew Brees. And I mean, way back. And David Carr, not Derek Carr, David Carr.
Yeah.
When he was finishing up at Fresno. So like those types of, that type of like introduction into it. And here's how full circle it is. His son, Brett Johnson, was running a business. Him and his wife have a business, a very successful business. And so he was our offensive coordinator, but he was not getting income off of it, and it was only coming to things that he needed to come to, practice 7-on-7 workouts, but he wasn't coming to stand there and watch us lift and run. Mm-hmm. And so I have 4 kids now. I have 3 boys, and my oldest is in 4th grade, and I'm sitting here, I'm on the Brett Johnson plan. By the time my son's a freshman in high school, I just want to be the coordinator. I have no interest in being the head coach. Yeah. And I want to do the Brett Johnson thing. So I'm literally like setting my life up business-wise, revenue, all of those things to be able to just be a pro bono OC. And my little 3rd and 4th grade flag team, it's not just my son. I got a good nucleus of kids. We're gonna dominate by the time these kids get in high school, because I'm teaching them real football starting in kindergarten, formations, personnel groupings, things like that. We run a real offense. Mm-hmm. And so that whole process, Elite 11 was around, this is I think the 28th year. I am the only person that's been to all of them. The owner, the guys who run it, they weren't there the whole time. So my dad dropped me off and I filled up water cups, and I watched Drew Brees as a junior and Ben Roethlisberger as a sophomore in college go to these events. And so I was just around this. It's not who I've coached. It's honestly who I've coached, but it's who I've been around. Yeah. And you look at Matt Stafford, who's the old guy in the league right now. And if you were to go, how do you know Matt? I go, because I was a college counselor when he was a high school kid at Elite 11. That's when I met him. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how I know all these guys, is the introduction to it. Yeah. And I coach in the UFL now. I'm the director of development for all 8 teams for all the quarterbacks. And I think we have 9 Elite 11 kids in the UFL this year. So I'll either do a draft prep with them, or I'll catch them in the NFL, or I'll catch them in the UFL. Right. And I actually just hired one, a former Elite 11 kid, NFL turned UFL, now employee. And so it's just very, very full circle. And I definitely work really hard and study and try and learn things that I don't know much about. But I've also been put in this position to just be around it my whole life.
Yeah. So do you think, so that was just a natural next step for you? You played in the NFL, and then did you kind of always have it in your mind? Like, okay, when my playing days are over, I'm going to start my own thing. Because you have QB Summit, right? That's your company. Yeah. Did you kind of always know that this is what I want to do?
I've never been a 10 years from now guy, or when I grow up. I like to, and then maybe that's the wrong way to think about it, but it was always difficult for me, because my experience as an NFL quarterback was I never had a single season where I knew I was going to make the team that year. Mm-hmm. So I've been a backup plan guy. And so I got cut a lot. I got picked up mid-season a couple of times. And so I actually started a business my second year in the NFL with my 2 high school buddies. We created the silicone wedding ring, and we created the category. It didn't exist. And so our company was called Qalo, QALO. And I'm a connector. And so what that looks like in the business world is business development and partnerships. And so we started this company. We all put like $6,000 in the middle. It was like a quarter of what I had. Mm-hmm. And it took off. We ended up selling over $200 million worth of rings, and we sold that business. I had 120 employees at one point. Wow. We sold that business. We never raised money either. It was all off growth. Bought some buildings in the process too. Mm-hmm. But we were figuring it out. We were like, man, rent's so expensive. What's it cost to just own it? Literally figuring it out on the fly. And we ended up with several buildings. And then after 2 years, when it was just hockey stick growth, went to the moon. I left, I vested my equity, and I left, and I started a digital marketing agency with one of the co-founders, my high school wide receiver. Mm-hmm. And then we grew Common Thread Collective to 130 employees. I ended up selling that business back to my partner. So I've always been very entrepreneurial. Mm-hmm. I was the kid that sold burnt CDs in high school and made money. Yeah. So I've always been entrepreneurial, but I was always coaching guys. Now for me, when I was in the league, there was several seasons where I was home during the season because I got cut and I was waiting on a call. Mm-hmm. And so I would go to high schools and throw with their guys. that naturally turned into the off season of high school kids or their dad saying, will you train my son? And I wasn't trying to like make $50.
Right.
So I would say, I'll train your son if he brings 5 wide receivers so I can throw. And I would have kids hop in. And some of those kids ended up being Elite 11 kids in college, and some of them went to the league. That's how I met Sam Darnold when he was 14. I was throwing, and he came with another kid I was said he could hop in my workout, and they brought 6 receivers, and that's how I met him. And I was playing for the Bears at the time. And so it just kind of kept going. But when I was I was playing for the Bears. It was the second last year of my career. And somebody approached me and said, I've been running IMG. I'm leaving, and I'm taking over Exos. So Exos was previously known as API, Athletes Performance Institute. There's like 4 or 5 these like world-class training facilities around the country. It's called Exos now. Different than Exos Catapult, Norv. They said, we're opening a new one in Carlsbad. It's off Palmer Airport Road. It's 30 minutes. Will you train our guys for the draft? And I was like, I don't take any disrespect by this, but just so you know, like, I'm still playing. I'm not like a coach, you know? And they're like, no, we know. You can train there. We'll feed you. You can do PT. You can eat there. We'll give you X amount of dollars, and you can train whoever we get. And I was like, if I'm not going to train, I'm not going to train anybody to run a 40 or lift. Yeah. But I'll teach him what I think a rookie ought to know if you guys recruit him and get him here. And so the first client I ever had was Blake Bortles, and he went 3rd overall. And I went to the green room, New York. We thought he was going late first. He goes 3rd overall. He's from Jacksonville. And it was just such an epic night and such a different draft day experience than going with my brother, where we knew, you know, I think he basically signed the contract before we got there.
Right.
So it was anticlimactic. You know, we were in the green room for 10 minutes with my brother. He put on a hat that we were already wearing Bengal stuff, and then we left. Yeah. So this was so fun. I was like, all right, I'm at least doing this draft prep thing. This is super fun. And it's life-changing, the whole family. And I was the little brother of that guy. Yeah. Right. So I was very connected to that, how exciting that is. So yeah, I think this is like my 17th year or whatever it is now. And so it just kind of all of a sudden, like, you know, most quarterback coaches privately, they get into it because they train nights and weekends, and then their kids become guys and their guys become good, and then they build a business. Yeah. My first client was a draft guy. So within 2 or 3 years, all the agents are sending me draft picks. Yeah. So I kind of just got into it from a weird angle. Mm-hmm. But I also had money coming in from the businesses that I had started, because I was getting up. Like, Norv, when you would meet me and watch Sam and Josh and Kyle Allen throw, I would then leave and go to work. Yeah. I'd get off the field at 10, then they'd go run and lift with the guy that I hired. And then I would go to my office and I would work until 6:00 at night. So I was working, you know? Yeah. And then in 2019, I really got to a point where I'm like, okay, this is a real business. And we can get into what I'm doing now. But that was kind of the evolution of how it started. It wasn't a 10-year plan, and I did it in 10. It was, you know, continuing to try and like figure out what the problem is. I think necessity is the mother of invention. We've all heard that. And seeing where's the gap in development, and continually trying to either fill it with what I got, or hire somebody to help fill it, or figure out what I need to learn to be able to fill it. Mm-hmm.
The interesting thing, because your path coincides with the NFL, and as I say this, people will think, well, that makes no sense. The NFL put together a list of rules that you couldn't work with your players until like April 15th. We used to bring the quarterbacks in March for a quarterback school and have a 3-day little camp to get them back started. We would do extra days with the quarterbacks, particularly the young guys. And the NFL said, no, we don't want guys in the facilities until this 12-week period, you know, the OTAs and the off-season and all that. And really, you got the great facilities, you got the you know, guys making millions of dollars to coach these guys, and couldn't be with them. So you filled a big need, and you guys that do this stuff with the quarterbacks, and it's important because that's how you get better, doing things over and over and over again. And you're so sound with all the technique and all the physical parts of throwing. You're providing a great service.
I appreciate it.
And you're, so you mentioned you met Sam Darnold when he was 14. And I'm just curious, like when you're meeting someone that young, how, I guess like at that young age, are you sort of identifying like, oh, this guy can go to the NFL? Like, are you able to sort of see that when you're meeting some of these guys in high school or in their teens? And I guess like the second part of that question would be like, how often are you right and how often are you wrong?
Yeah, I don't do a ton of like scouting high school. I'm not super connected to high school football. I did not meet Sam Darnold and think that he was going to become Sam Darnold. In fact, so the guy that I was with is, do you ever come across, Nor, do you ever know Bob Bazenko? He was Bob Johnson's like coach and business partner, and he was a coach on our staff.
No, it's funny you said Bob Johnson, because when I was at USC in the late 70s and 80s, that's the first time I became aware of Bob Johnson, who he was and all that. And everyone knew he had these quarterbacks and all the things you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was another coach, Bob Bazenko, and he was the one who had that throwing session. I met Sam, and his Bob had grown up around Carson too. So he'd been around Carson, us since we were little. Mm-hmm. And I didn't notice Sam throwing a good ball. I didn't notice Sam looking like a future superstar. I was joking with Bazenko because I'm like, hey, that little ginger kid over there looks dead on Carson at that age. He got buck teeth, freckles, red hair. He looked exactly like Carson when he was that age, like tiny head, the whole thing. So it was more like laughing that like this kid. And then 2 years later, he's in the Elite 11. And I'm like, oh my God, that was you. Mm-hmm. And that's when I started going like, well, once you start hopping in on these workouts. And I helped him, just mentally for the Elite 11, here's what it is. Because at that time, Sam was choosing between USC and Duke. Mm. This is a guy that wasn't looking at, all the stuff that comes with quarterback. He was going like, who's going to develop me? How do I learn? I don't know how to do this. Who's going to teach me? He's just looking at it like from such a level of purity. And I just gravitated towards it. And then once I got to know his parents and stuff, then they've been family ever since. His parents come to my kids' games now. But really that relationship's evolved into a much more professional relationship than just the nostalgia of being around him. And he's getting married this offseason. That's the other thing is, and these guys are going through high school and college, and I get to know them, maintain a relationship with them. And then they do draft prep. It's like, Josh is expecting his first child this offseason. I was at his wedding last year, and Kyle just had a baby girl. They live like 3 minutes from me. His wife is, when he's pushing my old stroller and using my old car seat. And you know what I mean? Right. It's just like become that type of, like you'd have with a sibling, Yeah. And so that's the fun part going all the way through it. And then now getting success, Josh won MVP last year. Burrow is another guy I've known since college. The run that he's been on, and then Sam, competing in a Super Bowl with I'll be shocked if I have another journey that I come across that'll be as impressive and will mean as much to me as watching Sam's journey the last really decade.
Do you, so let me ask, because you coach so many of these guys that are, currently starting in the league, do you ever, I guess they're such competitive people, right? Do they ever feel competitive, like for your attention? Not meaning like time to coach them, but, there's just like this natural thing of competitiveness. Obviously, sometimes they might be playing one another, high stakes games. Like, do you ever feel that? Like it's almost like they're your kids, right? Like you can't have a favorite.
Yeah. I definitely don't know.
Yeah.
If they do. I don't go to a ton of games. Mm-hmm. I'm coaching. I got 3 different little kid flag teams with my 3 boys right now, and we play year round. So I don't go to a lot of games. I went to the Bills-Bengals game this year, that snow game. It's my son's 10th birthday, and he's Bills Mafia to his core.
Yeah.
And so, I saw both of them before the game, saw both of them after the game kind of thing. But that's not a different situation. That's not too dissimilar than agents.
Exactly,
agents go to a game and have 5 guys playing on both, between the 2 teams. And, and so, but my relationship with my clients is very different. And so, Norv, this is probably an update. So the business now is a consultancy. So every one of my clients is on an annual retainer. So I coach guys year round. So I'm watching practice tape, I'm watching game tape, and I'm essentially curating really now, Norv, they're kind of outsourcing mechanics to me. And so every week I'm breaking down Sam's game in the off-season practice, and whatever we worked on, we have 4 phases. Phase 1 is whenever we start up until spring ball or OTAs. And then phase 2 is spring ball or OTAs, college or pro. Yep. Phase 3 is that summer. And then phase 4 is training camp in the season. And so whatever we work on phase 1 carries into 2, carries into 3. And then now in the season with Sam playing as well as he is for a couple of years now, it's a combination of showing him things that we've worked on that he's doing really well. I'm going to reinforce it. I'm going to show you every single time you do it. And then things to work on. Or things to work on would be something that was better before, and for whatever reason, it's just slipped a little bit. And then the third one would be something to think about, which is maybe a new idea. Hey, with this footwork, think about this. And all my guys, we start in the off season with no football. We typically go, for my NFL guys, we go, a couple of weeks on a basketball court with no football, and we really curate the movement. So for Sam in particular, this is his 5th offense in 5 years, and he has had the freedom to implement the footwork that he chooses at the last 2 locations, this year in Seattle and last year in Minnesota. But when he got to San Fran, he's doing it, that was new. And before that, Ben McAdoo, that was new. Before that, Joe Brady, that was new. Before that, Adam Gase, that was new, right? And so you go through, but what we don't do is talk about it and then go throw routes. We actually, with Sam, every year, 6 weeks on a basketball court. Mm-hmm. And we do these hour sessions, and it's typically twice a week and then 3 times a week. And then we build up to 4 times a week until he's ready to start throwing. So by the time we start throwing, a lot of times we don't really talk a ton about footwork. It's really about intricacies of it and, internally rotating your hips so I can put vertical force this way to set myself up with alignment here. And we just talk about it at such a level now with clients that I've had for several years. That's why a lot of times the quarterback coach isn't involved in this, is because it would take a long time to be able to bring them up to speed. Mm-hmm. And it's not an indictment on any individual coach. Right. It's just easier to outsource it than to bring them along. It's like onboarding an employee. If you really need that employee, I'll take a bunch of time to onboard them and teach them what's happening here. But a lot of times I shy away from bringing in interns because the amount of time I'm going to put in to explain them how I want to do it, I'll just do it myself. Yep. It's fine. Right. And so that's kind of where it is. And so last year, I think we had 17 college starters and a handful of NFL starters. And then we have a lot of backups where we do a little different programming where it's more check-ins during the season. But if you're the 3rd string quarterback, or really the backup in college or the NFL, you're not really getting coached. And in some cases, not even getting talked to at all. And so you have to take your own development.
Reps either.
Yeah.
None. And so you have to take that development into your own hands. And a perfect example is I've been working with this kid, Lincoln Keenholz, for 2 years. Not this season, the season before. He was the 3rd string quarterback at Ohio State. This past season, he was the backup quarterback at Ohio State. Mm-hmm. And he just got $3 million. He has no starts. He just got $3 million to go to Louisville. But he has gotten so much better each year, despite not getting reps, despite playing a handful of 4th quarters in blowouts, where you're typically running the ball, right? Yeah. And so to put him in this position and be able to document it and share with the team, here's the trajectory that this player is on. And so, for him to make more money without a single start in college than I ever made in one single year of playing in the NFL is absolutely insane. But it's on the table, so let's do it. And it's not inexpensive to work with us, but we have an incredible track record right now.
Yeah. No, one thing we like to talk about on our podcast is the intersection of football and life. And I grew up in the world of professional football and my dad coaching. And so I have so much of that is in my blood and the way I think about things. And athletics obviously provides such a great structure and work ethic for just people at any level. But I've heard you talk a little bit about external versus internal motivation. And I was wondering if you could just share that with the audience, because I think that's something that's really interesting in terms of how a person is motivated, and from a coaching or teaching perspective, how to help somebody identify that and then sort of get the most out of what they're trying to do.
Yeah. Well, it's a pretty different dynamic. Let's just say me and Norv Turner. Okay. Let's say just Norv Turner, the offensive coordinator, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm a quarterback and I play and I work with Norv Turner, I don't like on the paperwork work for Norv, but I'm playing for him, so I work for him. So it kind of doesn't really matter what I think. I've got to do what my coach, I work for this team and he is my boss. And so I have to listen to him.
Right.
So before I get into it, like, that's not my structure. I work for my clients.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a consultant, which is like the definition of it is like on an as needed basis, like when they want more information, when they want feedback. Now, it doesn't mean that I'm going to let somebody do something wrong and say, good job.
Mm-hmm.
That would make me a bad consultant, but I don't have the same structure. Like, none of these quarterbacks work for me and have to do what I say.
Right.
They can just not work with me anymore. And so that right there does change things.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, it's really important that the only thing I want to be judged on is how much better they get.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want somebody to work with me because they've been working with me forever, because they owe it to me, because I was there in the beginning. Honestly, I've pitched to guys to train them. And a lot of times when they don't come with me and they stay with somebody or they go a certain route, it's because of those reasons, which I think is a terrible process.
Yeah.
I mean, you have a chance to make like hundreds of millions of dollars here. Like, you don't know anybody, anything. Okay.
Yeah.
So for me, it's really important that if I'm just going to solely be judged on how much better you get, then that's the challenge that I see, because I've never lost a game, right? I've never I'm like 0-0, right?
Yeah.
And when guys have a really hard year, every year it's like Groundhog Day. Every year I have a couple of guys have devastating injuries. I have a couple of guys get screwed over. I have a couple of guys have a much better year. Mm-hmm. And I have like 1 to like 3 guys is the most I've ever had, where I would define it as like life-changing year.
Yeah.
Everything's different because of this year.
Yeah.
Sam Darnold, that was when he went in at SC and he won 8 straight and was Rose Bowl MVP. He set himself up to be like I told his parents the next morning, everything's going to be different now. Mm-hmm. Right. So then here he is again. This year would be, if he wins this weekend, it's going to be being a Super Bowl champ is different than making it to a Super Bowl. Right. It's like everything's different now.
Yeah.
Burrow's senior season, everything changed. Like, it's different now. Right. Mm-hmm. And so every year I have that, and I'm able to look at it unemotionally. And when a guy has a devastating injury, I'm not saying I don't feel bad for him, but my response is to help them understand that there's a series of reps of this adversity. You're going to go through adversity. These are really powerful reps that you can get here, where we can strengthen the I don't give a crap muscle. You're going to have to work harder than you did last year to rehab to get back. So that's an opportunity to have to push yourself differently. Maybe you ought to start paying attention to nutrition. Maybe you ought to take 6 months off of drinking, whatever it is.
Right.
It's a rep. And so for me, it's really important that I figure out early what motivates them. Mm-hmm. And so to answer your question, I have a unofficial background in performance psychology because I've worked with so many guys and I've hired so many people and I've sat in every single one of the meetings. And one of the things that I've learned in that process is that there's really 2 types of competitors. And they're internally motivated or externally motivated. And this isn't about winning. This is about they're like competing. One way to compete in my world for working with me is like, how willing are you to do simple, boring things over and over and over again mm-hmm. that aren't sexy or fun or cool? Like, how competitive are you? Like, how bad do you want this?
Yeah.
So if I tell you, like, go home tonight and, start doing this every single night for about 15 minutes. And then a month later, I can tell you haven't really done it. Well, that speaks to your competitive temperament. Don't tell me you didn't have time. You told me you want to be great. And so internal versus external. Externally motivated is when I'm motivated by what the people around me are doing. So internally is I could care less what the people around me are doing. I want to better myself. I want to do better than I did last time. So if I have 2 players and one of them is externally motivated, and let's say that I use this analogy. Let's say, I'm not a strength coach and I don't make guys do hard things and finish through the line and all that, but I wanted him to get 10 reps at something. An externally motivated guy, I would say, hey, that guy over there just got 9. See if you can get 10. An internally motivated guy, I would say, hey, last time you got 9. And if you switch them, it won't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the externally motivated guy doesn't care what he did last time. I just want to beat him.
Right.
And neither is better than the other is what I've learned.
Yeah.
Now, thinking you're the other one, but you're not, is like catastrophic. That's like identity crisis, but it is important for a coach, I think, early on to get the most out of them is to figure that part of it out. And again, in my setting, it's easier because I'm not going to name a starter at the end of this.
Right.
You know what I mean? So there's no kissing up. There's no like Norv at the end of is going to say, you're 1, you're 2, you're 3, bring me your playbook. And so there's other elements at play, you know what I mean? And building a relationship, getting to know them. And it's like, I don't have that. And so it kind of cut through a lot of the BS.
Yeah. That's interesting.
The listening to you and then thinking back to when I came in and watched those guys throw, I'm sure they're looking and say, well, what's he looking at? Why is he here? Or whatever. But one of the things I always look at is how they react to the guy. You had 4 really talented passers there. And, people don't know about Kyle Allen, but if you put him in that group, and the ball came off his hand the same, and he was throwing the heck out of it. But I couldn't help but watch, and they're very aware of what each other's doing. And there's a competition going on. That's the beauty of having those guys together. The competition raises them to another level because they don't want to throw an incomplete pass. They don't want to underthrow a guy. They don't want to, not do the things you're asking them to do. And you can get a feel for the competitiveness of a young guy by watching that. It's and then the other thing that I think you do a great job of, and this is something I've really concentrated on with all positions. Young guys, you have to coach them, and so they understand expectations. And I've had guys that they throw the ball over the back's head in the flat, and I missed it. Well, what are the expectations? That I hate to be this way, but you say that ball is the easiest throw you're going to have. Those are gimmies. You got to make them. That's the competitive nature. You can't dismiss it. Oh, I missed one. There are certain throws that you have to make, and you just have to make them consistently over and over. Yeah. We know there's difficult throws. We know I always used to tell them, the reason you're in this league is because you can make that throw 40 yards down the field. We can get a lot of guys to complete the ball in the flat, but they can't make that throw down the field or make that decision or whatever. So you want to raise the level of expectations of these young guys, whether it's a receiver. Hey, you can make that catch, expect to make that catch, and go make it. So that's a big part, I think, of getting these guys to the next level and the next level and the next level. It's well, this one got away from me. That happens, we know, but the expectation is, hey, if we're going to go, Sam, win a Super Bowl, here's the things you have to do better. Here's the things you have to improve on. And obviously he's really solved the problem of having the negative plays, and it's totally changed his performance. That's why he's won 28 games or in the last 2 years or whatever it is.
One thing's interesting is, because I see it, if you're in the league outside of scouting college guys, you're not really connected to college, right? And definitely not connected to high school. And if you're in high school, you don't even have time to watch college and NFL, right? So it gets compartmentalized into the level that you're at, right? And some of these guys go back and forth, right? College, pro, and back and forth. But for me, I see all of it all the time, and little kids. And I've got a growing girls business. I've got a gal named Chloe who came over as a scout from the Chargers, who's got a growing business. Summit Girls is exploding for flag. So I literally see it, across the board. Is this evolution that happens for quarterbacks? And so it's an evolution from being a playmaker to being a quarterback who knows how to put the ball in play. And that's the difference between the 40-yard throw and the flat throw, right? Yeah. And so what happens is, if you think about in high school, middle school and high school, like middle school is all about, it's crazy, but like this is like across the country. It's about putting yourself in a position to be in consideration for the starting job at that high school. I mean, it's starting in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, but where are you going to go? Which camps are we going to go to? Which coaches are we going to get to know? Is that guy going to get fired? Are they going to have a new coach? So you start like kind of essentially slotting, right? And so, but then you go to high school. Okay, so how do you, as a high school starter, How do you become, get offers, get big offers, get NIL deals, make it to the Elite 11, become an All-American? Well, it's largely based off of your playmaking ability. Mm-hmm. So Elite 11, they're going to watch your highlight tape as one of the metrics that they're going to look at. Every kid is going to put his highlight tape on Twitter and on Huddle, and the college coaches are going to look at it. And that's not different than when they used to put their highlight tape on a VHS and mail it to the coach either. Right. Okay. So that's not different. Okay. And so the incentive structure is to be a playmaker. Okay. And then you go to college. How do you win a Heisman Trophy? How do you become a first round draft pick? Well, it's largely off of your playmaking ability. Yep. It can't all be stats, because Josh Allen completed 56% of his passes in college. Like, there's places that's good enough to get benched.
Yeah.
And he goes 7th overall. So it's not just stats. We've definitely had like Joe Burrow and a lot of guys like win the Heisman, win the national championship, go number 1, right? Mendoza, my brother, So that's common. But it's not just stats. There's guys who didn't play much and didn't, Mitch Trubisky, I think, had 13 starts in college and he went 2nd overall. Okay. So, but how do you get there? It's playmaking ability. Mm-hmm. But there's something that has to happen to be successful in the NFL. At some point, you have to be somebody who understands how to put the ball in play.
Mm-hmm. So I have the thing that I always say, I use this with a couple owners. They didn't appreciate it. But, some people like the guy that can make a big play, but isn't necessarily a good player. And that's what you're talking about. You have to be able to do certain things physically to play quarterback, but you also have to understand how to play the game. And there's so many things that come into it. Some of the biggest plays in a game were when the quarterback threw the ball away instead of taking a sack and kept the drive alive because of it. Those things. And a lot of people don't even pay attention to it, but those are the things that can decide a game.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw this in Patrick Mahomes' evaluation. So I get I do my draft grades every year and I get it notarized. So I had Patrick Mahomes as number 1 overall rated player on the board. Mm-hmm. That was unpopular. Okay. And you came up and watched. I worked with him a little bit in draft prep, but I had Deshaun Watson in my group because you came up. I remember you came to Daniel Hills High School and watched Deshaun throw.
Yeah.
And I loved Deshaun. He was awesome. He was a great player. I had Pat as number 1. But the reason was because of what I just said. Because I go, all right, I understand the mechanics and I understand the throwing position and all the things that everyone wants to weigh in on. I never played in a big game and they were never very good and all that stuff. I get that. But I lived this in El Paso at UTEP, where we put up big numbers and we couldn't stop anybody. And nobody could in that conference, and nobody could in the Big 12 either. And so what happened is Pat not only had to make plays for them to have a chance to win, he also could not turn it over. Mm-hmm. If your defense can't stop these guys, you cannot you cannot turn it over. You have to end with points. Okay. Yeah. And so Pat in college, he's playing for Cliff Kingsbury and all that stuff, but that run and shoot offense that I played for Mike Price, he kind of like created the spread. I mean, that was like the origin of the spread offense. And I was like 1st or 2nd in the country every year that I started in attempts. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean I'm good. It just means we didn't hand it off ever.
Yeah.
And so going through that, Pat had to throw a lot of bubble screens, had to throw a lot of hitches, had to take the flat, and had to make him miss, roll right, never mind, roll left, and now hit the curl that turned into a pylon on the money. Like, you had to do all that stuff, then go to NFL, sit for a year and go, all right, so this is how this works. And then get Andy Reid explaining to you that. So Pat went through the evolution of being a playmaker and simultaneously learning how to put the ball in play, which is why he got to sit for 1 year. And then year 2, I think he threw 50 touchdowns. That's why that happened so quickly. But for Josh Allen, it wasn't until year 3 of starting that he went from 59% to 70.
Yeah.
And so that evolution has to happen. And so with my college clients, I have some playmaker clients. I got this kid at Washington, Damon Williams. He might be the fastest quarterback. I mean,
outstanding.
I want him to race Lamar Jackson 10 years ago. And I want to see who's faster. Okay. And Bryce Underwood, I just started with Bryce Underwood. Norv, this guy's 6'5", 230, and he just turned 18. I've never seen anything like it. And he's a sponge. So I've been around, he runs like a 4.3. So I've been around these superstar athletes, and the quicker that I can get them to buy into the fact that, like, dude, just put the ball in play and then make plays on an as needed basis. That's what's taken Caleb 3 years.
Yeah.
He's been a playmaker since I met him in high school and at SC. And what happened is he plays 1 year at SC and he wins a Heisman. It reinforces the instructor structure of being a playmaker. And so there's clips of him at SC. He stares down a wide open hitch and then he rolls right, cuts back left, hits a big one over the top. And guys like you and I are going, the hitch is open.
Yeah.
Why'd you make that unbelievable throw? Right. And so that's what, like, Ben Johnson, I know I'm rambling here, but like, that's what Ben Johnson's got out of him and that we're seeing in year 3. And if he takes a step in this offseason and completely buying into that, that he's going to be one of the better quarterbacks in the league. So it goes back to high school, though, it makes sense. I mean, my 10-year-old son wants to juke somebody and throw a touchdown. That's what he wants to do. And I'm not going to tell him it's bad, but like it is if the flat's open.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's that transition from college to NFL. It's obviously these guys are first round picks or all these things because they have the ability to make plays, but the structure of knowing how to play the game, the margin of error in the NFL, the games become very, very short. And the margin of error, a turnover, missing a first down because you got greedy and went over here, those things we know can come back to haunt you because the other team, they're pretty good too. Before we leave, I know we're running out of time. I just have to tell this Carson Palmer story.
Please.
Because it's one of the best. He was obviously, we were neighbors. I mean, they could hear our dog barking in the middle of the night, and we played the Chiefs in San Diego, and we beat them pretty good. And Dan Fouts, who's a longtime friend of mine, did the game for CBS, and we had a group of people come over the house after the game. A couple college friends, Rich Bisaccia, who was our special teams coach, Steffi and her husband, and whoever was in town. And I happened to look out the door, and we live on a dead-end street, and here comes Carson and his wife and another couple. And they've been down at the beach for the whole day watching games and whatever you're doing. And
Restaurant or something.
They may have had a cocktail or two, on the way up.
Yeah, they're probably
so I look out and I said, Carson, come on up. So he came up, and Rich met him, and he knew Dan and all that, and they hung out and had a couple of beers or whatever. Well, it's the year Carson was in his contract dispute with Cincinnati or whatever, and he gets traded to the Raiders, right? That's the sequence. So he gets traded to the Raiders, and like 6 weeks later, we play the Raiders on Thursday night, and Carson is just throwing BBs. He throws for about 400 yards, and they beat us. And Rich Bisaccia comes over to me midway through the third quarter. I think Carson had thrown his third touchdown pass or something. Rich goes, is that the guy we were drinking with 6 weeks ago after the Kansas City game? I said, that's the very guy, and he lives right next to me. But it was pretty fun.
You lived through, when Carson went through that with Cincinnati, basically, I'd rather retire than play at the end of the day is kind of what it was. Situation was, Carson and Shay and you and Nancy, because it sounds like you guys hung out quite a bit and, saw each other a lot. That was pretty wild. I mean, that's like the wild part of it, of like literally hanging out and then playing each other and all. You guys have known each other a long time anyways, and we're friends, but, it took, my brother was going to be done. Yeah. He was in his prime. That's Mahomes retiring right now. I'm not comparing the two players. I'm just saying, plenty of football left.
It's crazy.
It took Al Davis dying, Carson's college offensive coordinator, Hugh Jackson, the head coach, kind of assuming the GM role temporarily, them having a 4-1 start, 4-2 start, something like that. Jason Campbell breaking his collarbone to even get, because Mike Brown was not going to trade him.
Yeah.
He'd only trade. I think he would have only traded him to a worse situation. And at that time, I think that was the only worst situation.
Yeah.
So it took all of those things to happen. That wasn't like Carson's agent did a great job in getting it done.
Right.
No, like Jason Campbell doesn't break his collarbone. Raiders ain't trading 2 first-round picks for a quarterback.
Right.
Yeah.
It took all of those things to happen. If not, I mean, yeah, Carson would have been your, hanging out at your house.
He would have
for
been there
years.
every week, every Sunday night. Yeah.
It's wild
Yeah,
to think
every
about
week.
that,
Yeah.
and only because Carson was never talked about in the media. Still to this day, he's never like addressed it,
Yeah.
and he wasn't the, let me tell my side of the story because he doesn't care. That it wasn't as big of a story as it would be today if Joe Burrow does the same thing, or if somebody did something like that. Or when Andrew Luck retired out of nowhere, it would be because my brother, like, one, it was a small market, and two, he just kept to himself and never said anything about it. And everybody beat him up in the media and had their own opinion, and all these experts said what was really happening, and he was just tuning it out anyways.
Yeah.
But how big of a deal that was for them to then he ends up going, to Arizona, and he's runner up for MVP, goes to the NFC title game one year, but the year before that he was 10-1 when he tore his ACL.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were the best team in the league.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was the best player in the league. And so I'll put a bow on this because this is Super Bowl week. The only story I can think of like Sam Darnold's right now is my brother's. Mm-hmm. And it's not the exact same one, but my brother had to go through what he went through in Cincinnati, watch a game, hang out with you at your house as a retired free agent.
Yeah.
And then go to the Raiders. And he was playing good ball with the Raiders because I remember I've watched every snap of my brother's career, and like he had one season in Oakland, he played one of his best seasons, and he was 3-13 that year. Mm-hmm. They're signing guys on Tuesdays, starting at Z on Sunday. I mean, it was just a dumpster fire. Yeah. But he had to go through all that to then finally get to a place where there was infrastructure and stuff around him, and they were good enough to make a run.
And they had a talented team, and he had some guys to throw the ball to.
Yeah, and some infrastructure, but
the whole deal.
That crazy journey, living that, because it's different when it's your brother. You're living it. You're not watching it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And with Darnold, our relationship, I feel like I haven't been watching it. I've been living it.
Yeah.
And so it's wild for him to get all the way there.
Yeah. Well, we're excited to watch the game. We're definitely cheering for Sam Darnold. My daughter is 10 and she has gotten really into following the NFL. Obviously watching the teams that her uncle coaches for, my brother Scott, but she follows it all now. And so one of the coaches at her school came up to me the other day and said, I can't believe how much she knows about sports and the NFL. And he goes, yeah, we were talking about the Super Bowl the other day. And she said, I just really want Sam Darnold to win after all he's been through. She's 10 and the coach is like, I looked at her like, who are you, Stephen A. Smith? Like, who am I talking to right now? And I was like, well, yeah, she follows it. But yeah, it'll be fun to watch, and we'll definitely be rooting for him. And I want to ask you too, some other time I'll text you about, she wants to play flag football, and they don't have a girls team at her school, but I think she might be a natural quarterback. She's got an arm, and
she's got an arm and she can run.
Yeah. She's long, she's tall.
Well, I think girls flag is going to be the fastest growing sport that we've seen in our lifetime. I watched lacrosse explode.
Yeah.
I'd never heard of lacrosse, and I went back home to Mission Viejo High School and threw with Bob Johnson, and I was like, "What are those sticks those kids are carrying?" I remember that conversation, and then within 2 years, he's like losing good players to lacrosse.
Right.
This is different, and actually, Norv, I was at Joe Buck's wedding. Probably like 13, 14 years ago, he married Michelle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we were down in Cabo, and Jerry Jones was there. And at the time I was training Stephen Jones' son. So Jerry's grandson, John Stephen. Mm-hmm. And so I'd known them, and a lot of Romo and a lot of guys were there. And it was late at night, and Jerry, this right now, I'll say this was a pivotal moment. In 10 years, I might go, this was a life-changing moment. Mm-hmm. But Jerry goes, hey, are you training any girls? I'm like, no, why? He's like, I think girls flag is going to become a thing. I was like, really? Like, what? Like, at that time, like, there was the lingerie football league. Like, that's how massage, you know what I mean? Like, that's what was,
it was a
women's
different
football.
era
It was like not the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I go, why? And he goes, do you have any daughters? And I didn't have any kids at the time. I go, no. He goes, you got any nieces? I'm like, yeah, I got like 9 nieces. He's like, what's one of your nieces? I'm like, Kennedy's 6. He's like, we're going to be invested in that because we want Kennedy to not complain to her husband about watching football on Sundays. We want her to buy a hat and a hoodie and watch her favorite team. And if you think about it, all the stuff that the NFL is doing in Europe and Brazil and Mexico and Germany and all these things, it's going to take them several generations, right? It's not going to blow up football in the next decade. It's going to be a little kid whose dad takes him to a game, and then he takes his kid to a game, and it's going to take 2 or 3 generations to get a return on that investment. Where I think in the next 10 years, they're going to grow their entire market 30% just by little girls like your daughter. And I have an 18-month-old daughter that grew up understanding the game because they played it. And I know its flag is different, but no, first down, they're in the red zone.
Right.
Ooh, it's 3rd and goal. Just those conversations. And so what we see, Chloe on my team is training a lot of girls. And the most common thing I hear from the dads, which is why I know we're like hovering over the spot, is these dads go, dude, it's so awesome. My daughter watches the game with me now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just think about it as a dad. That's the only thing that you would pay whatever amount of money for that you can't.
Right.
Could I have a different thing that here you guys are as adults you have your own podcast together. How cool is this, Norv? Like my daughter shares this thing with me. That's my thing. Yeah. But she's into it. And so that's why Girls Flag is going to explode. I actually think in the NIL space over the next 10 years, the female quarterback at SC or Bama or Texas is going to be the highest NIL earners because of the marketability and the Olympics. I trained Deanna Flores, who's the face of the whole sport for Mexico. She's the Mexican quarterback. Yeah. I mean, she's in here on Wednesday with us. She's doing a training day on Wednesday. Yeah. We train her. Like I'm seeing it, and it's going to explode. And also, Steph, like there's my kids watch YouTube. Yeah. There's space for a boy or girl, doesn't matter. There's space for some little kid podcasts breaking down football. Yeah. For little kids. So if she's into it like that, you got a set. Yeah. Get her a mic.
That's cool. All right. Well, thanks so much for joining us. We do ask the same question to everybody, although you kind of already answered it earlier, which is if you didn't work in football, what would you do? But we know you have a bunch of different businesses in your background, so I don't know.
You're doing it.
Yeah, you're doing it.
I don't know if I would do that full time.
Yeah.
Gosh, I don't know. I've gone through these phases where, I went through this phase where I wasn't sure if I cared about money. You know, I'd been around my brother and I lived that lifestyle, and I was like, I don't know if I care about that or not. And so, but now I have an expensive life because I have 4 kids and all that stuff. Gosh, I don't know. I think it would be if I couldn't coach football. When I entered the league, Norv, I don't know if you know this, but I didn't think I'd make it. And so I wanted to play long enough to be able to get like a foot in the door to be a GM. Now I don't like the lifestyle now because I'm very involved. I mean, I drop my kids off every day, I pick them up every day, coach everything. But that for a long time is what I wanted to do. And now I used to talk to quarterback coaches all the time. Now I kind of just talk to GMs and some of those are my peers now. They're like my age. And so, yeah, I think it would been in the front office. So I don't know if that counts because it's the same space.
Yeah. But on the business
but it's a very different role than I have right now. But I do like the finance side of it. I do like hiring people. I like managing people. Yeah. And putting, having a bunch of employees, I think that would have been fun. So.
All right, cool. Well, we're going to come visit you. We'll come down and see you at
Please do.
Yeah, camps.
You're due, North. I literally have 7 quarterbacks on the couch right here. They're all sitting here watching Matt Stafford tape. So come down anytime.
All right. We'll let you get back to it. Thanks so much.
Thanks a lot. This is it was awesome. It's nice to be with someone and then be learning as you're listening. It's nice.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. Please remember to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts, and follow us on Instagram where we post fun clips and giveaways. We'll see you on the next one.